For $50, rancher buys a haunted house. Then his dog digs up a deadly mystery the next morning. Tom Harper woke with the sunlight cutting through the dusty curtains of the old house. Rusty, loyal as ever, was already awake, sitting near the foot of the bed, ears perked, eyes alert. Tom rubbed his face and stretched. The events of last night replayed in his mind. The basement, the strange hatch, the hidden ladder, and most of all, the metal box Rusty had dug up in the yard. Tom poured himself a cup of coffee and carried it to the small kitchen table, where the box sat waiting. He ran his fingers along the cold, rusted edges. The etched symbols still sent a shiver down his spine. He tried to open it, but it was firmly locked. There was no key, no combination, nothing but mystery. "Maybe we need a better plan, buddy," Tom said, scratching Rusty behind the ears. Rusty barked softly, as if agreeing. Tom decided the first step was to examine the box carefully. He noticed small dents, scratches, and a faint outline along the edges, almost as if the box had been opened many times in the past. The runes on the top of the box weren't just random. They seemed deliberate, each symbol carved with care. Tom grabbed a notebook from the kitchen counter and started copying them. While Tom worked, Rusty wandered the house, sniffing every corner. He paused near the living room fireplace, growling at something invisible. Tom looked up. "What is it, boy?" Rusty pawed at the bricks and then at the floor. Tom knelt and ran his hand over the tiles. He thought he felt a slight hollow beneath the floor. He grabbed a hammer from the old toolbox near the back door and gently tapped around the area Rusty had indicated. One of the tiles sounded different from the others. Tom pried it up carefully and discovered a small metal key hidden underneath. "This could be it," Tom said, holding it up. Rusty barked, tail wagging wildly. He inserted the key into the box, and with a click, the lid popped open. Inside, Tom found several items: a stack of old journals with leather covers, a small rolled-up map, and a slip of yellowed paper with a warning scrawled across it. "Do not open what lies beneath." "The past is dangerous," Tom frowned. "Well, they didn't make that very clear, did they?" He opened the first journal and began reading. The handwriting was cramped but legible. It belonged to someone named Dr. Elias Hartwell, who had apparently lived in the house many decades ago. The entries spoke of strange experiments, of human subjects, and of discoveries that could change the world. The more Tom read, the more he realized that the house had once been a laboratory of sorts. Rusty nudged the second journal toward Tom with his nose. Tom flipped it open and found detailed sketches of machines, devices that looked like they belonged in a science fiction story rather than a house basement. Some sketches depicted vials filled with glowing liquids, others showed wires connecting to chairs and strange equipment. Tom's brow furrowed. "This isn't just some haunted house, this is a secret lab." He looked at Rusty. "And somehow we're in the middle of it." Determined to understand more, Tom decided to check the basement again. He fetched a flashlight and descended the old wooden stairs. Rusty followed closely, sniffing and growling as they moved deeper. The basement smelled damp and metallic. Dust covered every surface and cobwebs hung from the ceiling like curtains. Tom approached the corner where he had found the small box last night. The hatch was still there, the ladder disappearing into darkness. Rusty barked once, sharp and insistent. Tom knelt and examined the hatch again. Near the edges, he noticed scratches that looked very deliberate. Someone had been trying to get in or keep something in. Taking a deep breath, Tom unlocked the hatch and lifted it carefully. The ladder descended into a narrow passage that led even deeper underground. The air was colder here, carrying a faint metallic scent. Tom shone his flashlight down the ladder and saw what looked like a large underground chamber at the bottom. "Looks like the adventure continues, buddy," he said. Rusty growled, tail low, but followed him cautiously as Tom descended. The chamber was massive, much bigger than the basement above had suggested. The walls were lined with strange machinery, most of it covered in dust and cobwebs. There were cabinets with glass vials, monitors that flickered faintly, and wires hanging from the ceiling like vines. Tom felt a shiver run down his spine. He walked slowly, careful not to touch anything unnecessarily. Rusty sniffed every corner, occasionally letting out a low growl. In the center of the room was a large table covered in papers and more journals. Tom picked up a notebook and began reading. It contained detailed accounts of experiments, some on human subjects, others on unknown creatures. The entries described ways to enhance human abilities, increase intelligence, and even manipulate the body in extreme ways. Tom swallowed hard. These people were playing with forces they didn't understand, he muttered. Rusty growled again, nudging a metal box on the floor. Tom opened it and found a small device with blinking lights. When he pressed a button, a holographic display flickered to life, showing old recordings of the experiments. Tom's eyes widened. The holograms showed people in lab coats moving around subjects strapped to chairs, some writhing in pain. Notes scrolled across the screen describing enhancement trials and containment procedures. It was horrifying, but also fascinating. Rusty barked, breaking Tom's concentration. He turned and saw shadows moving along the far wall, shadows that weren't his own. His heart raced. "Okay, we're not alone here," he whispered. He scanned the room carefully. There was no one in sight, yet the shadows persisted. The machinery seemed to hum faintly, as if powered by some unknown energy. Rusty's hackles were raised. The dog growled low, warning Tom that they were in danger. Suddenly, a soft click echoed through the chamber. Tom spun around and saw one of the cabinets sliding open by itself, revealing another hidden compartment. Inside was a small vial, glowing faintly with a greenish light. A note inside read, "Handle with care. 1 drop is enough to change a man." Tom held the vial carefully. "What did they do down here, Rusty?" he asked quietly. Rusty pawed at the floor as if urging him to be careful. Tom decided it was time to explore further. He followed a narrow corridor leading away from the main chamber. The walls were lined with old electrical panels and strange symbols carved into the concrete. The symbols were similar to the ones on the metal box and the basement floor. Clearly, they meant something important. At the end of the corridor, Tom discovered another door, slightly ajar. Rusty growled, tail stiff, as Tom pushed it open. The room beyond was smaller, filled with more equipment. On a table, he noticed a set of vials, jars, and papers scattered in disarray. It looked like someone had left in a hurry. One paper in particular caught Tom's attention. It was a map showing the underground lab's layout with a section marked in red. "Containment area dangerous." Tom's heart pounded. "Dangerous, that's an understatement," he muttered. He realized the metal box Rusty had found in the yard was just the beginning. This house was hiding secrets far more dangerous than he had imagined. Rusty barked again, and Tom noticed the dog staring at a corner where the floor seemed slightly raised. Kneeling, Tom discovered another hatch. This one was smaller, almost like a trapdoor. It looked old, but it was well sealed. Rusty pawed at it, impatient. Tom hesitated, flashlight in hand. He didn't know what awaited them below, but he knew one thing: he couldn't turn back now. Curiosity, courage, and a sense of duty were pushing him forward. "This way, buddy," Tom whispered. Rusty barked once, low and determined, and Tom began lifting the trapdoor. The air beneath smelled even colder, more metallic, and carried a faint trace of something alive. Tom descended carefully into the darkness. Rusty followed, sniffing and growling, alert to every sound. The passage opened into a smaller chamber, but even here, signs of past experiments were everywhere. Strange devices lined the walls, papers scattered across tables, and in the corner something moved. A small shadow, fleeting, gone before Tom could see clearly. He froze, flashlight shaking slightly. Rusty growled, hackles raised. Tom took a deep breath. This was only the beginning. Whatever secrets Dr. Hartwell and the others had left behind, Tom knew they were dangerous. But he also knew that discovering them was now his responsibility. Above all, he wasn't alone. Rusty was with him, loyal and brave, a small light in the darkness. Together they would uncover the truth, whatever it might be. And somewhere in the shadows of the old haunted house, the past was waiting, ready to reveal its deadly mysteries. Tom Harper's heart pounded as he stepped deeper into the underground chamber. Rusty padded quietly beside him, ears twitching, tail low but alert. The air was heavy and cold, carrying a metallic tang that made Tom's skin prickle. Every shadow seemed alive, every creak of the floorboards a whisper of the past. The room expanded into a large hall, lined with machines that looked decades ahead of their time. Some were covered with dust, others hummed faintly as if still active. Screens flickered with static, occasionally displaying numbers or symbols before going dark. Tom felt a shiver of awe. This was not a normal abandoned house. It was a secret laboratory, hidden from the world for decades. Rusty barked sharply, breaking the silence. Tom followed his gaze and noticed a large table in the center, cluttered with vials, papers, and strange metallic instruments. One of the vials glowed with a faint green light. Tom picked it up carefully. A note beside it read, "Handle with extreme care. 1 drop is enough to change a man." Tom frowned. He had no idea what the note meant, but instinct told him the serum was dangerous. Rusty nudged the table with his nose, growling at something near the far wall. Tom turned and froze. A shadow moved. It darted across the room just out of the corner of his eye. He swung his flashlight, illuminating a row of cabinets. One of the doors creaked open on its own. Tom's pulse quickened. "Rusty, stay close," he whispered. The dog pressed against his leg, alert and protective. Tom approached the cabinets cautiously. Inside, he found more journals, similar to the ones in the box. They were labeled with dates and names, many referring to Dr. Elias Hartwell. The entries described human experiments, ways to enhance strength, intelligence, and endurance. Some journals hinted at dangerous side effects, pain, instability, even death, but the scientists seemed obsessed with their discoveries, careless about the consequences. Tom's hands shook slightly. "These people were crazy," he muttered, "playing with forces they didn't understand." Rusty growled again, nudging Tom toward a large machine in the corner. It looked like a chair with wires and sensors attached. Next to it was a monitor, flickering faintly. Tom stepped closer and pressed a button. The screen lit up with a holographic recording. Tom gasped. It showed subjects strapped to chairs, their bodies tense, eyes wide with fear. Scientists in lab coats moved around them, adjusting dials and injecting glowing liquids. The subjects' muscles twitched unnaturally, their voices strained, screaming. Notes scrolled across the hologram. "Enhancement Trial 27, success in endurance, moderate neurological instability." Tom stepped back, his stomach churning. He realized the experiments weren't just theoretical, they had been tested on real people. Rusty barked again, low and insistent, and Tom followed the dog's gaze. In the corner, another hatch led deeper underground. Curiosity overpowered fear. Tom knew he had to see what lay beyond. He descended carefully, Rusty following, the air growing colder with each step. The chamber below was smaller but densely packed with machinery. Strange devices hummed softly, their purpose unclear. On a table lay a small box, similar to the one Rusty had dug up in the yard. Tom opened it and found several vials, all glowing faintly. A note read, "Final serum use at your own risk. The consequences are irreversible." Tom's heart raced. He realized this was the culmination of Dr. Hartwell's experiments, the final stage. Whoever had created this serum had stopped, either out of fear or after disaster struck. Rusty sniffed around the chamber, barking once at a corner where the floor seemed slightly raised. Tom knelt and pressed his hand against it. The wood was loose. With effort, he pried it open to reveal another hidden compartment. Inside were more journals, maps, and a small vial of glowing liquid. The note read, "If released, the serum will enhance but also destroy. Guard it or the world suffers." A chill ran down Tom's spine. He realized the danger wasn't just in the past. It was here now, and he was in the middle of it. Rusty growled, his hackles raised, sensing the same threat. Suddenly, the lights flickered. Machines powered on, buzzing softly. The air seemed to pulse with energy. Shadows shifted on the walls. Tom stepped back, gripping the vial carefully. He realized the laboratory wasn't abandoned by accident. Someone or something was still here. He took a deep breath and focused. Curiosity had brought him this far, and now caution was just as important. Rusty nudged his leg, and Tom followed the dog's instincts. Together, they moved through the chamber, avoiding exposed wires and unstable platforms. Every step made the floor groan beneath them. Tom paused at a console covered in dust. He brushed it off and noticed a series of switches labeled with cryptic symbols. Remembering the journals, he realized the symbols corresponded to the ones etched in the house and on the boxes. Carefully, he flipped a switch. A section of the wall slid open, revealing another corridor leading deeper underground. Rusty barked, growling at the darkness ahead. Tom hesitated, but his curiosity and sense of responsibility pushed him forward. He and Rusty entered the corridor, flashlight beams cutting through the darkness. The walls were lined with more machines and strange symbols. The air was thick and metallic, carrying a faint hum of energy. At the end of the corridor, Tom found a door sealed with heavy metal. Rusty pawed at it, growling. Tom examined the door and found a small slot shaped like a keyhole. He remembered the key from the box Rusty had dug up outside. With shaking hands, he inserted it and turned. The door creaked open, revealing a small chamber filled with more machinery. In the center was a chair, wires attached to it, and monitors displaying data. The air was colder here, almost freezing. Tom felt a shiver run down his spine. He approached the chair and noticed a small vial resting on the armrest. It glowed faintly green. A note read, "Final trial, handle with care." Tom realized this was the serum that could change everything. One drop could enhance human abilities beyond imagination, but at what cost? The journals had warned of neurological instability, pain, and even death. Rusty barked, pawing at the vial. Tom understood the dog's warning. This was dangerous. He carefully picked up the vial and placed it in his jacket pocket. Rusty followed, alert and ready. Tom knew they had uncovered a deadly secret, one that could change humanity if misused. But he also knew they had a responsibility to protect it. Suddenly, a noise echoed through the chamber, a soft click, followed by the sound of footsteps. Tom froze. Rusty growled low, ears back. Someone or something was here. The shadows shifted again, and Tom's flashlight caught a glimpse of a figure moving in the distance. He couldn't see clearly, but he knew they weren't alone. Panic threatened to rise, but Tom forced himself to stay calm. He had Rusty, his loyal companion, and together they could face whatever came. The figure stopped, and for a moment, silence filled the chamber. Then a voice whispered, almost inaudible, "You shouldn't be here." Tom's heart raced. He realized the danger wasn't just in the serum or the experiments. It was the people who had created it or those who had come to guard it. He tightened his grip on the vial, Rusty growling at his side. Tom took a deep breath. They couldn't run, not yet. They had uncovered the truth, and now they had to decide what to do with it. One wrong move could be deadly. But Tom Harper had never been one to back down from a challenge, and Rusty had never left his side. Together, they would face the mystery of the house, no matter the cost. The chamber seemed to pulse around them, alive with the echoes of the past. Machines hummed, shadows danced, and the air carried the weight of secrets long buried. Tom knew this was only the beginning. The deadly discovery they had made was not the end. It was the start of something far larger, far more dangerous, and far more important than he could have imagined. With Rusty by his side, Tom prepared to face the unknown, knowing that bravery, loyalty, and intelligence would be their greatest weapons against the hidden dangers that lay ahead. Tom Harper's heart raced as he backed away from the glowing vial, Rusty growling low at his side. The shadowy figure from the previous chamber had vanished, but the sense of danger remained. The underground lab was alive with whispers, hums, and faint clicks from unseen machinery. Every corner seemed to hide a trap, every shadow a secret. Tom took a deep breath. "We have to move, buddy. Stay close." Rusty pressed against his leg, eyes alert. Together they began retracing their steps through the narrow corridor, the flickering flashlight beam cutting through the darkness. The lab seemed to react as they moved. Lights flickered on and off, machines hummed to life, and faint alarms buzzed in the distance. The symbols etched on the walls seemed to pulse, almost like the house itself was watching them. Tom shivered. Something about this place was alive. At the end of the corridor, Tom stopped. Rusty barked, growling at a small device embedded in the floor. Tom knelt to examine it and realized it was a pressure-sensitive plate, a trap. If they stepped on it, who knew what would happen? He studied the pattern, careful to place his feet on safe spots, guiding Rusty step by step. The dog followed without hesitation, trusting Tom completely. Once past the trap, Tom exhaled. "Good boy, Rusty, that was close." Rusty wagged his tail but stayed alert. They entered a larger chamber filled with more machinery. Pipes ran along the ceiling, dripping water in steady taps, echoing through the room. Rusty sniffed the floor, then barked at a panel on the wall. Tom approached and noticed a small keypad. A faded note beside it read, "Enter the sequence to open the next passage. Fail and containment will activate." Tom frowned. "Containment? Like what?" Rusty whimpered, sensing the tension. Tom studied the symbols etched into the walls and remembered the journals. Using the clues, he carefully pressed a sequence on the keypad. A soft click sounded and a hidden door slid open. "Luck or brains?" Tom muttered. Rusty barked, tail wagging as if to say both. The new passage was narrow and winding. Rusty led the way, ears twitching at every sound. Suddenly, a low rumble shook the floor. Tom grabbed the dog, holding him close as small debris fell from the ceiling. The passageway narrowed further and the air grew colder. Every step was tense, every sound amplified in the tight space. At the end of the passage, they reached another chamber, this one filled with rows of sealed containers. The faint green glow from some of them illuminated the room. Tom's pulse quickened. He realized these were storage units for the experiments, vials, samples, maybe even remnants of the dangerous serum. Rusty barked sharply, growling at a corner. Tom followed his gaze and froze. A thin mist hovered near the floor, swirling unnaturally. His flashlight caught movement. A shadowy figure, indistinct but clearly alive, flickered through the mist. Tom swallowed hard. "We're not alone, Rusty. Stay close." The dog pressed against him, growling, ready to defend. As they moved carefully around the containers, Tom noticed a small control panel with a red button labeled, "Emergency release, do not press." He hesitated. Rusty pawed at the floor near the panel, alerting him to something. Tom realized pressing the button might trigger the lab's self-defense mechanisms. He backed away slowly, guiding Rusty toward another door at the far end of the chamber. But the door was locked. Rusty barked, circling the door, sniffing for a way in. Tom noticed a small keyhole hidden beneath the frame. He fumbled with the key from the metal box, praying it would work. With a click, the lock disengaged and the door swung open. Beyond it was a narrow spiral staircase leading upward. Tom glanced at Rusty. "Almost there, buddy." "Just a little more," Rusty barked, tail wagging nervously, and followed him up the stairs. The staircase ended in a small room beneath the house itself. The walls were lined with old stone, damp and cold. Sunlight filtered in through cracks in the ceiling, dust dancing in the rays. Tom breathed deeply, relief flooding him. They were close to the surface, but relief was short-lived. The sound of shifting machinery echoed below. The lab was not entirely dormant. Something, or someone, was trying to stop them. Tom tightened his grip on Rusty's leash. "We need to move faster." At the far end of the room, a hatch led outside. Tom pushed it open, revealing the overgrown backyard where Rusty had first found the metal box. Sunlight washed over them, warm and reassuring. Tom exhaled, feeling the tension release from his shoulders. Rusty barked excitedly, running a few steps ahead, then circling back to check on Tom. Tom looked back at the house. The windows were dark, but he could feel the presence of the lab beneath. It had secrets, dangers, and perhaps more than one guardian. They had escaped the underground chambers, but the threat was not gone. He decided to secure the vial and journals in his truck. Rusty ran ahead, sniffing the ground and marking the area, as if warning others to stay away. Tom followed, carefully carrying the precious and dangerous artifacts. Once inside the truck, Tom locked the doors and took a moment to catch his breath. Rusty sat beside him, ears twitching, eyes alert. Tom patted his head. "We did it, buddy. We made it out." But the relief was fleeting. He knew the lab was still active in some way. The machinery, the shadows, the traps, they had all been designed for a reason. And if anyone else came looking for what was hidden here, the consequences could be catastrophic. Tom decided they needed a plan. They couldn't just leave the vial and journals at the house. Too much knowledge, too much danger lay within them. He needed to find a safe place to study the contents without triggering the lab's defenses or attracting unwanted attention. Rusty barked as if agreeing with the decision. Tom smiled. The dog had been more than just a companion. He had been a guide, protector, and friend. Together, they had navigated the traps, uncovered the secrets, and escaped the deadly underground chambers. As they drove back toward the ranch, Tom kept his eyes on the road, mind racing with questions. Who had created the lab? Why had they abandoned it? And most importantly, what exactly did the serum do? The journals hinted at great power, but also great danger. One drop could enhance a human beyond imagination, or destroy them entirely. Tom's thoughts shifted to Rusty. The dog had been brave, loyal, and intelligent. Could he trust himself to handle this discovery responsibly? The sun set as they approached the ranch, painting the sky in orange and purple. Tom parked the truck and carried the box and journals inside the house. Rusty followed closely, tail wagging, ears alert. Tom placed the vial on a high shelf out of reach and began organizing the journals. He knew that tomorrow they would need to examine the contents more carefully, but tonight they rested. The danger was still present, lurking in the shadows of the abandoned house. The lab beneath had claimed many secrets, and now some of those secrets rested in Tom Harper's hands. Rusty curled up beside him as Tom sat at the table, reviewing the journals by lantern light. The dog's presence was comforting, a reminder that loyalty, courage, and intelligence were the true tools needed to face the unknown. Tom could feel the weight of responsibility pressing on him. The world didn't know what lay beneath the old house, and perhaps it was better that way. But he also knew that with Rusty by his side, he could face whatever challenges came next. As night fell, the house seemed to settle. The wind rustled the trees outside, and the shadows of the past remained hidden beneath the ground. But Tom knew this was only the beginning. The lab's secrets were dangerous, powerful, and far from fully revealed. And somewhere beneath the house, the machinery hummed softly, waiting for the next move. Tom Harper closed his eyes, resting briefly while planning their next steps. Rusty, ever vigilant, kept watch at his side. Together, they would uncover the remaining mysteries, navigate the traps, and confront the dangers that had been buried for decades. The race against time had begun, and there was no turning back. The sun was barely rising over the horizon when Tom Harper stepped outside his farmhouse, Rusty at his side. The crisp morning air filled his lungs, and for a moment he felt a rare sense of peace. But he knew it wouldn't last. The abandoned house with its secrets and dangerous underground lab still held mysteries that demanded answers. Tom had spent the night reviewing the journals and examining the glowing vial. Every entry hinted at power, but also at danger. Dr. Hartwell and his team had created something extraordinary, something that could enhance humans in ways no one could imagine. But they had abandoned it for a reason. The experiments had failed, perhaps disastrously. Tom had to make sure the serum didn't fall into the wrong hands. Rusty pawed at the ground impatiently, and Tom chuckled. "All right, buddy, time to finish this. Let's see what's really down there." The duo returned to the old house, careful to avoid attracting attention. The front yard was quiet, overgrown weeds brushing against their boots. Tom hesitated at the door for a moment, remembering the shadows and traps from the underground chambers. But he steeled himself. This was their mission, and he couldn't turn back. Inside, the house felt different in the light of day. The creaks and groans were less threatening, yet the air still carried the faint metallic tang of the lab below. Tom retrieved the hatch in the basement and opened it. Rusty growled softly, tail low, as the familiar ladder descended into darkness. The underground chambers were quieter than before. The machines hummed faintly, and the shadows seemed to retreat from the flashlight's beam. Tom led the way, careful to avoid the traps they had discovered earlier. Rusty followed, nose to the ground, guiding him through the winding corridors. They reached the central chamber, the heart of the laboratory. Machines lined the walls, wires dangling from the ceiling. The glowing vials and holographic displays awaited, silent but full of potential danger. Tom placed the journals carefully on a table and examined the devices. Each one was more advanced than anything he had seen outside the lab. Rusty barked, alerting Tom to a faint noise behind a cabinet. Tom approached and discovered a small door partially hidden in the shadows. He pushed it open and found another chamber, this one smaller and filled with containers holding strange liquids. The faint green glow of the serum illuminated the room. Tom's eyes fell on a larger container labeled Final Serum, handle with care. He knew this was what Dr. Hartwell had warned about. One drop could enhance a person's abilities, but the risk of death or instability was high. Rusty nudged the container, growling low. Tom understood the warning. He carefully picked up the vial, holding it as if it were a fragile treasure and a deadly weapon. Suddenly, the air shifted. A faint hum grew louder, and the machinery powered up around them. Rusty growled, hackles raised, as a shadow moved near the far wall. Tom's heart raced. He wasn't alone. From the darkness emerged a figure, masked and cautious. The person stopped a few feet away, hands raised slightly. "Who are you?" the voice demanded. "I'm Tom Harper," he replied firmly. "This house, this lab, it's mine now, and I won't let anyone misuse what's down here." Rusty barked, standing protectively in front of him. The figure hesitated, then stepped closer, revealing themselves as a local historian named Clara. She had been researching the abandoned house for years and had discovered hints of the lab, but she hadn't expected anyone to reach the final chambers. "Tom, you don't know what you're holding," Clara said, eyes wide. "This serum, these experiments, they could destroy lives if they fall into the wrong hands." Tom nodded. "I know, that's why Rusty and I are being careful. We need to contain it, study it safely, and make sure it's never misused." Clara's gaze softened. "Then we need a plan. The lab isn't just abandoned, it's designed to protect its secrets. If anyone tries to remove the serum carelessly, the traps and containment systems could activate. Tom studied the machinery, realizing the danger. We'll do it step by step. Rusty, help me out. The dog barked, tail wagging, ready to assist. Together, Tom and Clara began disabling the traps, using the notes and journals as guides. Rusty proved invaluable, sniffing out pressure plates, alerting them to tripwires, and even nudging hidden keys into Tom's hands. The trio moved carefully, avoiding pitfalls, dodging sparks from malfunctioning machinery, and solving simple mechanical puzzles left by the lab's creators. Hours passed, but finally they reached the outermost corridor, where the hatch led back to the basement of the house. Tom carefully carried the vial and journals upward, Rusty leading the way. Each step was tense, but their preparation paid off. They avoided the remaining traps and finally emerged into the basement. Sunlight from the small basement window felt like a blessing. Tom set the vial on a high shelf out of reach. The journals were placed safely in a locked cabinet. Rusty barked, proud and alert, as if approving their work. Clara looked around, smiling. You did it, Tom. We made it out safely, and the secrets of the lab are secure, for now. Tom exhaled, relief flooding his body. We couldn't have done it without Rusty. That dog is braver than most humans I know. Rusty wagged his tail, resting his head on Tom's boot. But even as they caught their breath, Tom realized the responsibility they now carried. The lab's secrets were powerful. They could change humanity, but only if handled responsibly. And that meant vigilance. Over the next few days, Tom and Clara carefully documented the journals, copying important information while leaving the dangerous materials securely locked. Rusty patrolled the house, alert to any intruders or disturbances. The abandoned house, once a place of mystery and danger, was now under watchful protection. Tom couldn't help but marvel at the resilience of humans. Dr. Hartwell and his team had created something extraordinary, and though their experiments had failed or been abandoned, their work had left a mark. Humans were capable of curiosity, invention, and determination, but also of mistakes and danger. Tom realized that protecting the world from its own inventions was just as important as creating them. Rusty barked suddenly, alerting Tom to movement outside. The ranch lay quiet, but a small figure appeared at the edge of the property. Tom grabbed a pair of binoculars and focused. It was a neighbor curious about the old house. Tom waved and called out, smiling. Don't worry, it's safe now. The neighbor waved back, unaware of the dangerous secrets beneath the ground. Tom lowered the binoculars, feeling a mixture of pride and caution. The house had been a place of danger and mystery, but it was also a testament to human courage and ingenuity. That evening, Tom sat on the porch with Rusty at his side. The sky glowed orange and purple, the same colors he had admired before discovering the haunted house. But now he saw it differently. The world was full of mysteries, some dangerous, some wondrous. And humans, with their curiosity, bravery, and intelligence, had the power to face them. Rusty rested his head on Tom's knee, eyes closing in contentment. Tom smiled, patting him gently. We did good today, buddy. We did really good. As night fell, the house settled into silence. The shadows of the past remained buried beneath the ground, but the dangerous secrets were now in safe hands. Tom knew the world would remain unaware of the lab and its experiments, but that was okay. Some knowledge was too powerful to be shared recklessly. And somewhere deep in the earth, the machinery of the old lab hummed faintly, dormant but intact, waiting for those who might come with curiosity, courage, and the wisdom to use it responsibly. Tom Harper leaned back in his chair, Rusty beside him, feeling the satisfaction of having faced danger, solved puzzles, and protected humanity from a deadly secret. The journey had been terrifying, exhausting, and thrilling, but ultimately it was a triumph. Humans, he realized, were capable of facing incredible challenges. They could be curious, brave, and intelligent even when the odds were against them. And with loyalty and courage like Rusty's, they could overcome darkness and danger. The old house remained on the horizon, mysterious and silent, but no longer a threat. Tom and Rusty had proven that humans, together with determination and courage, could triumph over even the deadliest mysteries. And as he watched the stars appear in the night sky, Tom knew one thing for certain. Humanity would always find a way to rise, to protect, and to survive, no matter what dangers lay hidden in the shadows. Rusty barked softly as if in agreement. Tom smiled. The adventure was over, for now. But the story of the $50 haunted house, the underground lab, and the bravery of a man and his dog would remain with them forever.